Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vintage Glamour. I'm your host, Key Michel, and welcome back to the show. So what is going on, everyone? I'm very happy to be back here with you all for another episode. And I also hope that everyone is having a great day thus far, as well as a great weekend. Now, I know I did not put out an episode last week, and to be just very transparent with you all, I was dealing with some things in my very own personal life. I had a family member that was dealing with some health issues, so I said, you know what? Let me take this week off and deal with that, and I will come the following week and put out an episode for you all. So I am here, and I'm really ready to discuss the topic for today because I think that this is a topic that you all will really appreciate. I'm going to be keeping it really real with you all. Really real with you all. So without further ado, let's dive in to the topic for today. So the topic for today is the downsides towards the journey to success. The downsides towards the journey to success. So my intention isn't to be a negative Nancy here, right? I think that when it comes to success, a lot of people only like to discuss the highlight reels. And I wanted to just be really honest with you all about the downsides that I have realized in my very own journey towards success. And I wanted to share this with you all because, number one, I think that there are some of you all that will be able to relate. And number two, if you can't relate, I think you will appreciate it, right? I think you will appreciate just me being really honest with you all right now about the downsides. And this was a topic that came to my mind. And I said, you know what, if this intuitively came to my mind, I think that this will be a great topic for the show. So I wrote down 4 downsides, right? I'm sure that there are several other downsides that, other people may have, and maybe I can think of some more in my very own journey. But these 4 were the main downsides that really quickly came to my mind, right? So I said, yeah, I'm going to discuss these 4, and not only am I going to discuss them, but I'm also going to discuss with you all what I have learned as well, because I have learned a lot along this journey. And to be quite honest with you all, I'm very, very grateful for the growth and everything that I have been learning towards my very own journey to success. So let's dive in and start with number 1. So the first downside has been losing friends. Losing friends. Now, towards this journey, I have lost some friends along the way. I haven't lost a lot, but I have definitely lost some friends that I could never even imagine losing. I could never imagine them walking out at all. Some of these friends were some of my biggest supporters and cheerleaders. So I was highly bewildered that they were the people to walk out of my life. And, it wasn't in a, huge arguing or negative way like that. It was actually them just letting me know that you've been working on your career and we think it's great, but, we just decided to push the friendship to the wayside because they don't feel like they have been, hearing from me in the same way. They're used to hearing from me every day, and they're not hearing from me in the same way or seeing me in the same way. I have been focusing a lot on my career, and they just don't feel like I have been, focusing on the friendship in the same way that I was doing in the past, right? So, I think that if I was someone that wasn't able to really seek to understand, I would look at this like, wait, what? Are you serious? But, I think that sometimes in life, when people are used to, you being the friend that they see every day and you being the friend that they talk to every day and they love to talk to you, they love to be around you, it can kind of make them a little nervous and scared when they start to see you drift apart a little bit, right? They start to probably think to themselves, well, hey, is this going to be the way it always is? Are they going to just completely drift apart from me? Well, you know what? Before they do that to me, let me do that to them. Let me push them to the wayside, or let me cut them off, right? And sometimes you may be that person's closest friend, right? They may have other friends, but you may be their closest friend. You may be their only friend, and you might not even really realize that, right? You may be their only true friend. So you working on your career and you focusing on your dreams, it can make them feel like, man, are they just abandoning the friendship? Do they not want to talk to me in the same way anymore? Do they not care about the friendship, right? And so it can cause them to want to either push you away or just completely let the friendship go, right? Now, I know some of you all may be listening and you're probably like, well, that's kind of messed up. I think that's messed up. I think that's selfish. I think that isn't right. And I hear you. I definitely do. I hear you. But I think that, especially, at this point of my life, I can't really focus on that and harbor on that. I think that, you know, this journey towards success, it's bigger than just me, right? It's bigger than just me. I think that all of us have a calling and have a purpose, right? And I want to fulfill my calling and my purpose. I really do. And I really truly believe that the people that are meant to be here and that are meant to stick around will stick around. And the people that are not meant to be here and that won't stick around won't stick around, right? But I know for a fact, because I look at friendship in an abundant mindset, that more beautiful connections and friendships, right, will come into my life. But at first, I was like, wow, I could never imagine losing some of these friends because I'm working on a career path that you were really excited about as well, right? You were cheering me on. You were rooting for me. But I started to focus even more on this career path, and you stopped feeling the same way, right? You started feeling like, okay, is this person going to completely forget about me? Let me push them away before they push me away. So, losing friends is definitely that has been one of the downsides. I care a lot about friendship. I love having friends. You know what I mean? I really, really, really do. But losing friends towards, my very own journey to success has been a downside because some of those friendships I had for years. I mean, for years. But, you do learn, right? You do learn that, not everybody that you think is going to be with you throughout your journey in life is going to be with you, right? And, that is such an important thing to know and to learn, right? And I think, when it comes to me personally, I love lifelong anything, right? I love lifelong friends, lifelong connections. I love that, right? I really do. But I think I have to realize that, not all connections that you may think will last forever are meant to last forever. So that has been a real big eye-opening experience, right? A real eye-opening experience. But I've also learned that, the connections that are meant to come into my life now are going to come into my life. And to be honest with you all, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to meet more people and to make new friends. And, I really do hope, though, that those friendships that I do make, those new friends, that they do last a lifetime because I love meaningful bonds and meaningful connections. So, that is definitely number one. The first downside has been losing friends. The second downside has been isolation and loneliness. Now, yeah, this is something that I think that, you know, a lot of people experience towards their journey towards success, or being an entrepreneur, is feeling lonely and feeling isolated at times. And this is something that I definitely started to feel during my journey. I never really always felt lonely or isolated. I'm a really extroverted person, so I was always around people, hanging out with friends. But even, being an extroverted person, during those moments when I needed to be, by myself, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being, to myself at times and recharging and, just learning more about myself or thinking of new great ideas and getting really creative, dancing in my room like nobody's watching. I enjoy those things, right? But with entrepreneurship, like you're really isolated at times, and you get really lonely at times because it's really just you working towards this, right? And sometimes everybody isn't always going to understand what you're doing, but I think that I needed this. I really did need this because of the fact I mentioned before that I was always around people. I'm like I said, I'm extroverted. I did that personality test like 3 times because one of my friends told me to do it, and I'm an ENFJ. So the E stands for extrovert. I think it was like 80% extroverted, like the 20% is just for me to recharge. So that's pretty much letting y'all know, like, I'm really extrovert. I'm a very extroverted person, but I do like my alone time. I do like my alone time, but I think I had to get used to being alone a little more, is what I'm saying. And, during this journey, it has forced me to, be to myself a lot more, and to really learn more about myself and to work on aspects, the good and the bad, right? And I really appreciate it because, although, there are times where you're isolated and you're alone, you really realize, in order to elevate in your life, you gotta isolate. You gotta isolate in order to elevate. And I had to realize that, right? I had to realize that. And I would say I definitely felt, these feelings in the beginning of the journey. I think now I'm actually a lot more content because I've grown so much during my seasons of isolation and, my seasons of loneliness. Even asking myself, why do I feel lonely? You know what I mean? Is it because of the fact that I want to be, around people right now, or is it other reasons? And realizing, no, it's not even the fact that you want to be around only people. There's probably other reasons why you may be feeling this way, right? But I really learned a lot, and I realized I needed those seasons of isolation. I needed those seasons of isolation, not only to elevate professionally, but personally as well. Personally as well. I needed those seasons of isolation. I really did. So, I was really grateful for that. But at first, it was a downside. It definitely was a downside. Being isolated and being lonely at first, it definitely was a downside. But I learned a lot from it. So I'm really grateful for it in the end. So that is number 2, isolation and loneliness. Number 3 is people not understanding that sometimes greatness takes time. That sometimes greatness takes time. This is definitely a downside. And I will say that this is still a downside. This is definitely still a downside. Although I've learned from it, right? I would definitely say that this is still a downside. Is that, people aren't going to always understand that greatness takes time. So I have been working on Key to Fashion since 2018, but I first got the idea in 2016, right? And so sometimes, there are people around you that understand that greatness takes time. They're not going to be on you too much about that. But other people around you may not get that, right? And if they're not on the same path that you're on, career wise, if they're not an entrepreneur, or if they're just not doing what you're doing, right? Maybe you're not an entrepreneur necessarily listening right now, but maybe you're doing something else. Let's say you want to be a nurse, right? And there's some people in your corner that are like, wait, like, this is taking this long, like, what's going on? They don't understand that your journey towards greatness, this greatness towards being a nurse, it's going to take some time. They don't get that, right? So sometimes people are not always going to understand this. People are not always going to understand that greatness takes time. There are people that expect Rome to be built in a day. There are some people that are going to expect Rome to be built in a day. And it's like, hello. Rome was not built in a day. Greatness takes time, right? Greatness takes time. And sometimes I be thinking like, man, like, y'all want me to be the next Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs in 6 months to a year. I mean, that would be great and cool, right? But it's like, even for them, it took years. It took years. It took years. It took years. Everybody's journey is different, and I understand that. But I also, I'm very realistic, and I know that greatness takes time, right? I know that building a solid and amazing foundation takes time. It takes time. And I'm okay with that. But sometimes people around you are not going to understand that. So they're going to want to see, a huge level of success after a short amount of time sometimes. And you're like, wait, So what I learned is that it's really important to celebrate not only your big wins, but your small wins too, right? And to just always remind yourself that greatness takes time, because you don't want to be hard on yourself and you don't want to rush your very own process, because the people around you are not understanding that greatness takes time. They're not getting that, They're not understanding that. They're thinking, oh, you said you're going to do this. They want to see you be the next Steve Jobs within 1 year. They want to see that. If you started, and for some people, there are some people that can succeed, excuse me, very quickly, right? Good thing I got my water next to me. But there are some people that can succeed very quickly, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say, they start a platform on social media. There are some people that can grow that platform to 100K in a year or 100K in 6 months, and so on and so forth. But everybody's journey is different, right? Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is different. So, this is definitely a downside, is that everybody is not going to understand that greatness takes time. Greatness takes time, all right? So that is number 3. And number 4 is having to make sacrifices. And I would say this is definitely something that was a downside definitely earlier on in my journey, is having to make sacrifices. So what I mean by that is, sacrificing your social life, missing out on vacations with friends, missing out on events. Like, I definitely, early on missed out on a lot of things. I was very used to being out and about. And so after a while, it was like, man, I got to really focus. You're missing out on events. You're missing out on vacations. You're not going out as much, but you realize, it's worth it in the end. You gotta make those necessary sacrifices. You got to make those necessary sacrifices. It can be tough at first, but it is worth it in the end. And, there are definitely other sacrifices that I'm sure other people have made, right? But those are the ones that came to my mind. And I wanted to mention those to you all. So that is number 4. And that is all. Those are the only downsides that I have here. on my short list. And, as I stated, I'm sure that there are many others. Hold on, you all. I'm over here. My voice is crackling, and I said, you know what? Let me make sure I have my water. Let me just take a sip of this water. Yeah, I said I had to make sure that I bring my water because I know sometimes my voice can. I'm like, this is what happens when you have a deep sounding voice like me. But let me not digress. So, what have I learned? What have I learned? That's what we're gonna dive in. What have I learned? Okay. After I discuss those downsides with you all, what have I learned? So, I learned that, as I've been striving towards success and, really, you know, building up my career, I'm also building up my character, and working on my character and learning a lot about myself, You realize that, yeah, as you're like working towards your journey to success, yeah, you're, becoming better professionally, but you're also working on your own character. You're becoming a better you. You're becoming a better you. You're learning a lot about yourself. You're growing a lot. And that has been powerful. That has been powerful because I am someone that loves to grow as a person. I really do. I think that life is about personal growth. I think it's about who we are and who we are becoming. And, I'm always striving to become and be a better me, right? So I really have learned that, yes, it's about, being the best that you can be professionally, right? But I have really, developed an even better character, right? And I love that. I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm really, really grateful for the growth. I would say the next thing that I really learned is that I have a tremendous, I would say even more than before, a tremendous amount of, I would say, respect, a tremendous amount of respect for a lot of people that are striving towards their dreams and they have reached the level of success that they have envisioned and imagined, right? I think that, the fact that they never gave up, and they just kept going, I think that's remarkable. And, you know, I know that early on in my spare time, I would listen to a lot of people and, listen to their stories or watch, YouTube videos about people, striving towards their journey to success and the highs and the lows that they had to endure. And it would really inspire me. It would really inspire me. I remember I would, watch videos with Tyler Perry. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily, enjoy his movies or his craft. But you know what? I still respect the fact that, he was striving towards his dreams and he never gave up. I don't always watch his movies and stuff like that. And you know what? I'm not gonna knock his craft or knock his dream because he was given that dream and that vision for a reason, right? I'm only here for the fact that he never gave up. That's the thing that inspires me the most is the fact that he kept going. From 21 to 29, he was homeless. He was sleeping in his car. He kept going. I just think that's remarkable. I think that is remarkable. I really do. His story, if you don't really know much about his story, definitely look it up. His story inspires me so much. So much. It really does. And there's a lot of other people. But he just came to mind. So, just people that never gave up and they kept going. Even when there was some people in their corner that didn't believe in them, even if they lost it all, they kept going. I have a lot of respect for those people. I really do. I have a lot of respect for those people because I realize that, this isn't always easy, right? It isn't, but it's definitely worth it. And I have a lot of respect for those people that kept going and they just believed in themselves. I really do. So that's definitely number two. Um, Number three, what would I say is number three? Because I know I definitely have more. Let me think. I would say that it's important to define what success means to you. I think success is different for a lot of people, right? And I think it's important to define what success means to you. I really do. And I think that, you know, it's important not to conform to other people's version of success, right? So, I would say that's definitely something I have learned that it's so important to define what success means to you. It really is. And um, I would also say that I realized, like, once again, this is really like a spiritual journey. Like, you're really just like growing as a person. You're learning a lot about yourself. You're working on certain aspects that you probably didn't even realize, negative aspects that you probably never even realized you had until this journey, right? So it's a really spiritual journey as well. But you also realize aspects about yourself, powerful aspects about yourself that you didn't even know you had as well. It's really great. It's definitely a spiritual journey though. It's definitely a spiritual journey. You learn that along the way as well. You really do. I'm just trying to think. I think that's all. I definitely think that's all. But like I said, I think that it's really important for everybody to define what success means to them. And, during those moments when, there are those downsides and they can become really tough to not only remember your why, but to think about the people maybe in your very own life that did not go after their dreams and how that has impacted them, right? I know I have some people in my family that, didn't go after their dreams. And it really bothers them till this day, right? And, I have an aunt that she is just like, I mean, when you walk into this woman's home, her house comes alive. I mean, her interior design is on another level. Like, I used to love going to her house as a kid. And I remember, a few years ago, we like to go out and we like to spend time with each other and get lunch. So she decided to take me out for lunch. And, when we were, just waiting for our food, we were discussing dreams. And she was telling me, Kian, I think it's great that you are, chasing your dreams. I think it's great because that is something that I wish I had done. But I allow people to get in my ear. And I said, oh, wow, let me listen a little more. Let me listen to this. And I said, well, what do you mean you allow people to get into your ear? What dreams did you have? And she said, well, I always had the dream to be an interior designer. But I allowed people to tell me, well, back in those days, you won't be able to be an interior designer as a black woman. Who is going to hire you? Who is going to hire you, right? That's not something you'll be able to do. And she said she allowed people to get into her head, and to basically say, that's not something you should do. You should not be an interior designer. And she said, you know what? Till this day, that is something I regret, not going after that dream, because she's like, I intuitively know that if I went after that dream, I would have been the top interior designer. I know that. I know I would have been the top interior designer. And the fact that I could see her gift, right, from the time I was a child, and that was something she wanted to do, and she did not go after it, I said, oh, no, 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 no. That was one of the biggest wake-up calls ever. I said, oh, no, 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 no. I'm going after this thing. I am going after this thing. Because you can just see that that is something that she truly regret. She truly regretted not going after her dreams, right? And yeah, she can still go after them, but she's in her 70s. And sometimes, people, when they get to that older age of life, they kind of just look at life like, well, you know what, I didn't go after it then. Why am I going to go after it now, right? Even though you can go after it now, some people have that mindset, right? So, I want to take advantage of the time I have now and to just pursue the seeds that I have been blessed with. And I think that you all listening right now, you got to pursue and go after those seeds and those desires that you have been blessed with, because you've been given them for a reason, right? You've been given them for a reason. And I think one of the worst things in life is to look back on your life and said what you wish you should have done. That's one of the worst things in life, is to look back on life, right? And say, oh, I wish I had done that. Oh, I wish I had done. That is one of the worst things. One of the worst things in life. Me personally, I think that's one of the worst. Because it shows that you didn't live your life the way you really wanted to live it. Right? So go after your dreams. Go after them. You may experience some downsides, but go after them. Go after them. So I'm going to wrap this episode up. And I don't really have any announcements other than that there are new gems up on the website. So definitely check out the new gems up on the website. And that is it. That is all, you all. That is all. So I definitely hope that you all enjoy this week's episode. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vintage Glamour. And I hope you all have a great one. Bye now.